Hey guys, it's Purple Ferret here. Today's drawing is slightly different from the ones I've done previously. It's still FNaF related, but it's my OC Gina, specifically her glamrock version, more specifically her shattered glamrock version. Something I want to mention at this phase is it kind of looked like this rat antenna topper that my grandma had on her car when I was a kid, so I realized that at that point and I thought it was funny and I wanted to point it out. But I also thought you all wouldn't know what I was talking about, so I decided to find an image of it. So you're welcome, you got to see an image that wasn't my art in my video. That also wasn't a reference image. This isn't my first time drawing her, but it's my first time recording drawing her. I think I've only drawn the shattered version once before. And it was like a full body shot. This is cropped because I wanted something a little more cinematic-y. I have drawn the non-shattered version of her, I think like 5 times. I slightly redesigned her a couple months ago. It was mainly just her snout shape because it was reading very canine and she's supposed to be a ferret. And so she looked a little bit too much like Roxy for my liking, so I just fixed that. I did actually put thought into her existing at the Pizzaplex, so it's not just, I thought it'd be cool to make a glamrock version of her since she is my OC and she exists, which is a thing I've done in the past. It's not necessarily bad to do. The classic and toy versions are the only two that are like, that had any thought into them before, but I've also drawn the nightmare version, for example. I didn't really like her design at all, and honestly, the nightmares are like a whole different level of creep that doesn't really play into what I like about FNaF, so I never really liked her. What I like about FNaF is the whole looks cute-ish until you change the lighting, and in this case, until you absolutely damage her. I went for a more zombie type look for her, which I can kind of explain a little bit. I do first want to touch on her base design elements and what role she'd play at the Pizzaplex and stuff, because that's a little bit important to why she looks the way she does when she's shattered. Basically, I decided that even though the original Gina was more of a fortune teller, that didn't fit at the Pizzaplex, so her role would have to completely change. And I thought it'd be kind of neat if she was maybe the band's drummer, because so far there was a lead vocalist, a guitar player, a bass player, and a guitar player, but there was no percussive element to the band, which there doesn't necessarily have to be because there could be a backtrack, but I thought it'd be neat if I created someone to fill that role, so I decided I would. And along that line of thinking, I got to thinking what her upgrade part that would be useful to Freddy would be. And then I realized that her hearing might need to be accounted for as a drummer, because real drummers usually have to wear ear protection for prolonged sets of playing. And I thought it'd be kind of neat if she was able to filter out loud sounds in the vicinity and search for like specific sounds she's looking for, like the other performers' music and stuff. And the way that this would affect gameplay would be that the noise distractions wouldn't work on her because she would be able to filter out and hear your footsteps and stuff. It also kind of plays into the non-confirmed idea that each of the shattered glamrocks is one of the like speak no evil, do no evil, see no evil, and then she could be hear no evil. And you might have guessed that since her upgrade is hearing, that she would lose her hearing come time for her shattering. And so I have the whole back of her head kind of, it's open in the back, so like you can't see it very well from this angle, but the entire back of her head pretty much is just open, and her hearing unit would be missing from there. And the indication on Freddy that the upgrade was a success would be either he would start wearing her earrings, which are like star-shaped, or his earring would change to be blue, which is the color of her earring. And I imagine when you're piloting Freddy, you might be able to pick out sounds easier. Portions of the game would need to be rewritten in order for this to work. So, and I feel like that's a good sign that she's like a meaningful contribution if she did exist, is that she doesn't just automatically fit, but she feels like she could. And maybe she'd be sensitive to the Chica wah thing that Freddy can do up until she gets shattered, in which case she'd be immune to it. I also feel like she'd become more reliant on sight after she got shattered because she lost her hearing and she can't hear anything, and so she just has her eyes wide open all the time. A little bit like how Chica has her eyes wide open, but I feel like that's more of a just the way she was damaged thing and not a conscious effort. One thing I haven't thought too much about is what her personality and the kind of irony that would happen with her losing her hearing, because her being the drummer makes sense on the technical level for that, but it doesn't make sense personality wise since I haven't given her one, really. And I feel like it just works with the other glamrocks if she does have something like that. So Chica has the whole she eats trash thing, and so her losing her beak makes it so she can't do that anymore. Well, she can kind of still do that, but she doesn't actively try to do that anymore. And Roxy loses her eyes and she's obsessed with vanity. So I kind of just want something like that for her, because the cruel irony of their shatterings is kind of the best part. Even though Security Breach is a mess, it did that specifically really well. The contrast and the irony of the shattered versus non-shattered glamrocks and how they interact with the world differently pre and post shattering. And she doesn't have anything like that because she doesn't have a personality. So I should probably give her one, but I have no idea what to do with it. Now might also be a good time to mention that I accidentally forgot to export the sketch version of this. So at the end, I'm going to have to do something janky and compare it with a shot from earlier in the video. And that's because I recorded this in almost one sitting. I did the majority of the work in like 2.5 hours just sitting down and working on it. And that includes getting straight into the line art. We haven't even made it to the point where I stopped recording. So yeah, I spent a long time working on this in one sitting because I was actually very excited to work on it, which is probably from the change of not drawing multiple characters and only drawing one and it not being full body. So maybe I should do something more like this more often. To return to an earlier topic, the reason that Gina is so zombie coded, at least to me, is primarily because Glamrock Chica is the most scary to me, which sounds weird until I mentioned that I'm specifically referring to post-shattered Glamrock Chica, because post-shattering, she is terrifying to me, and the reason that is, I think, is because she reads very zombie to me. What I really mean by that is all the ways that she's made inhuman by the whole shattering process. Her head spins 360. She can no longer talk. She only screeches. She shambles around like a zombie. So basically, I think the whole picture reads as zombie because she looks very rotten. And I wanted my glamrock shattering to fill me with the same fear. And I will say that just this still image doesn't freak me out as much as Glamrock Chica does. However, if I saw this thing wandering around in a mall after hours, I feel like I'd be kind of terrified. So I think it works. This is also kind of the first time since I started drawing on my drawing tablet more regularly and recording it that I actually put the effort in to put in a background, and I actually enjoyed the process. When you only have one specific object and a gradient, it looks good without putting much effort in, which is something I needed in my life. So I'm back after a quick lunch break because I was hungry and I got a little tired of talking. And I just remembered that I also don't know how she gets damaged the way she does. I just know that I want most of her damage to be from behind because none of the other ones really have that going on. And the process by which she's damaged should also be ironic and tie in with her personality, like how the others do. And I don't know how I'm gonna do that. If you all have suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I guess I'm on my own. Just a quick thing in case I've picked up someone who doesn't know what a ferret generally looks like. The markings on her face and arms aren't part of the glamrock design. It's just general ferret stuff. She does have face paint that I didn't add it during the whole sketch phase because I didn't want to have to clean it up. So I added it later and I almost forgot to add it, which was bad, but it exists. It's fine now. You probably noticed a minute ago that there was a cut, and that's because we are actually on the next recording, which is great because doing the majority of the work in one sitting was fun when I wanted to do it, but it was not a very good idea in terms of sitting down and just doing it and then finishing it. This is actually the next day because it got very late in the day and I had to go to bed. And if I knew I was going to sit down and draw for that long, I probably wouldn't have done that because I had been trying to think of something to draw that entire day, and then when the idea struck, I just sat down and I worked on it, and it was fun. But if I knew how long I was going to sit there and do it, I probably would have set a timer for me to stop so that I wouldn't get tired first. And I honestly could have gotten up and walked around to get my blood pumping again and then sit down and work again, but I knew that was not healthy, so I didn't do that, and I instead went to bed. Something kind of funny, it's been a whole week as of recording this since I posted the most recent video that I put out, where I said I would put my Tumblr in the description, and I still haven't done it. I'm gonna do that today. I kind of put it off because no one's really seen the video yet. It has literally one view. It is literally one view, so it doesn't really matter, but I feel like it should be in the description because I said it is. I'm running out of things to say, honestly, because I think I covered all of her... No, I didn't. Okay. I didn't explain the elements of her design that weren't related to story. The color palette is entirely taken from her classic and toy design. The pink, purple, and blue just goes together really well. As for the rest of her design, I looked up glamrock fashion from the 80s. I took things like her mesh shirt, her hairstyle, her belt, which I incorrectly did not. There's supposed to be like studs on the belt, I think. I could be wrong, I need to check that. But I completely forgot about whatever details were supposed to be on her belt. But the belt specifically was based on glamrock fashion. I also kind of thought it'd be neat if she had pants, since Monty's the only one that does have pants, because everyone else either has no pants or has very short shorts or a leotard. I also knew I didn't want her to have leg warmers because I didn't think they would suit her design, because it would be her thigh color, whatever design was on her shins for the leg warmers, and then dark purple feet. And I feel like going lighter purple, probably pink, and then dark purple would have looked a little weird and also made her look very samey with Roxy and Chica, even if I don't add patterns. I did opt for a darker pink at the bottom of her legs and then a slow gradient to the pink that matches her hair, just to add a little bit of something, just so that her pants didn't have to necessarily have a pattern, but looked a little less plain. And here we are at the end of the video, and as for always, my favorite part is the comparison to juxtapose what it looked like before and after. I always like this part, even though I completely forgot to export the sketch this time. I will say, I really do like the final product, but I do miss the way the hair looked in the sketch. It just has a certain pizzazz to it that I didn't keep. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I do have a piece in the works, so Next episode is definitely going to happen on time because I'm about halfway done with it. I haven't started the video yet, but I will. I'm really excited for it, and I hope you will tune in for that next time. Bye!